Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachar Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Revelation, the 16th chapter. And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the seven angels. So now in the 15th chapter, remember, it ended with John seeing the seven angels that had, they were given 7 vials, which contained the wrath of the Most High. And they went into the temple, and there was smoke in the temple, and nobody could go into the temple till, what does it say? Right, it says here, nobody was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled. So here we are, right? It says, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon the earth. And the first went. Now, based on the first and what he's doing, we know what time period this is, right? Revelation 16:2, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men that had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. those that worship the image of the beast are going to take the mark of the beast. That's why they're usually mentioned together. Okay, as a part of worshiping the image of the beast, you're going to take the mark of the beast. You cannot worship the image of the beast without taking his mark. That's because when they bring out that mark to prove that you're worshiping that image, you're going to take that mark. And that's in order for you to function in society. Now, it says here, this is a consequence. So at this point, people have already started to take that mark. And this is now a plague, right? A side effect, as you would call it in modern times, for those that had received the mark. So let's look into a few of these words here. There fell a noisome. Let's look at that word, noisome. And just before I forget this term, what is this? That's Aurelius. Aurelius, there you go. Put that on the side. All right. So this is and the first one. All right, so the word noisome, grievous, and sore. So it says noisome, right? Of a bad nature, troublesome, injurious, baneful. Baneful is not healthy. Baneful is not healthy. Baneful, harmful, or destructive. Shit. What's this? Grievous. The word here says full of labors, annoyances, of a bad nature. In the physical sense, diseased. And so that's what's going to happen, right? Let's go here. And then the word sore. A wound, especially a wound producing a discharge or pus. Okay, a sore or ulcer. That's that's a physical effect that's going to happen to people that receive the mark. Now let's type that in here. Noisome and grievous sore. Let me just type that in here. See. Yeah, it says noisome and grievous sore refers to a plague in Revelation 16:2, where the first angel pours a bowl of God's wrath, causing painful, malignant, and foul ulcers. I'm not even going to go into Google Images on this. I'll save your eyes. I'm not going to do that to myself either. To break out on those who worship the beast and received his mark. It signifies a severe physical affliction, likely a form of skin disease, as a punishment during the tribulation. Now, this is going to be caused from that device in your body. Okay, that device is poisonous, and all that radiation poisoning going on in there. Let's look up here. Does radio frequency create radiation? or emit. Probably should have done emit. It says here, yes, radio frequency creates a type of electromagnetic radiation known as non-ionizing radiation. It is used for wireless communication and does not have enough, does not have enough energy to damage DNA or cells directly. At high intensities, it can cause heating, potentially leading to burns or health issues. Now, you know that this is they put this in here as damage control because nobody asked, right? All I did was ask about radiation, but you're throwing in there this already in there as like a disclaimer of defense. You know, oh well, just to let you know, it doesn't have enough energy to damage DNA or cells directly. Okay, that's fine. Whatever they say, but there's a reason why, you know, with all the technology, you know, your laptops and phones and so on around you using Wi-Fi, that's radiation going through you. Okay, and it does have health defects that come along with it. But we know based on Revelation 16:2, there's going to be a actual physical effect, you know, that sore that's going to come upon, you know, upon men. And as we read this chapter, you'll see there are plagues, you know, like actual destructive plagues that mirror that of ancient Egypt. Okay, and as we go into Second Esdras, you know, the Lord said that, but they mirrored that of ancient Egypt, and these you're going to see taking place at that time when people have received that mark, like the apostles say, you know, everything is going to move fast. So verse 3 says, and the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man. That's like red or blood. And every living soul died in the sea. Okay, and that blood is contamination, all right, or pollutions, basically rendering the basically rendering the waters undrinkable or unusable, just like in ancient Egypt. Okay, now the Lord could also turn some of these bodies into actual blood, like how he plagued ancient Egypt with. Remember, the Lord mentioned signs in the earth, right, and in the heavens. Let's go there real quick. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 10. Ezra was in a time post-Egyptian captivity, you could say. Long after the time of Moses. So it says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. But we weren't in Egypt, all right, at the time Ezra received this. I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. And where is this Egypt? This is talking about the modern day Egypt. Isaiah the 19th chapter also goes into that. Okay, which this modern day Egypt is America. Revelation 11 and what's that verse? Let's go to it. Revelation 11 and 8, right? And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city. The great city is America, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt. So it says where also our Lord was crucified. So this is talking about spiritual Egypt, which is America. Verse 11, but I will bring them, who? Israel, starting with the elect, and the bringing is deliverance, with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. And what? And smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. The difference here, though, is the land of ancient Egypt, not the whole land was destroyed, but the whole land of this modern day Egypt, which is America, will be destroyed. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundations of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that God shall bring upon it. So the Lord said he's going to smite this Egypt with plagues as before, like what he smote ancient Egypt with. That's why when you go into Revelation 16, even though these plagues are for here in this time, they're mirroring that of the plagues the Lord brought in ancient Egypt. See, about the water becoming like blood, right? Unusable, contaminated, and every living soul died in the sea, just like in ancient Egypt. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood. So they were rendered, unusable. Now the Lord might, he might use more modern means, because that's what the Lord does, right? Like now in the ancient world, things were more supernatural, but now with technological advances and with his tool, which is Esau, he's able to cause the same effects just using more modern means. Or the Lord might decide to just, do it in a spooky manner, all right, and actually cause different bodies of water to turn into blood. But either way it goes, they're not. It's going to cause um, distress upon men because they won't be able to use the water. Verse 5, and I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art and was and shalt be. Why? Because thou hast judged thus. You're righteous for judging like this, bringing this kind of judgment. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets. But wait a minute. In ancient Egypt, what prophet's blood was shed? Because Moses was the prophet during that time. The Egyptians didn't shed his blood. This is talking about America. In Revelation 18 talks about that, right? In her was found the blood of the saints. I think it's 18. It says here, for they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. You see that? Verse 7, and I heard another out of the altar say, even so, Lord God Almighty. They mean they second that. They co-sign that. Yeah. That's right. Khan. True and righteous are thy judgments. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. Okay, and that's going into the heat waves, meaning that you're gonna, and you've had this in times past before, but it's gonna get to a point, right, as these prophecies start kicking off, even in an even higher gear, and they push that the MOTB, people start taking it, they're getting their grievous sore, you're having the signs in the earth, you're gonna have here the Lord having, as it says, this angel increasing the temperature. Okay, and now you're gonna have not only with the undrinkable waters, and the plagues of the recipients of the MOTB, but now people getting extremely heat, unreasonable, unrealistic, supernatural heat waves, burning people dying of those heat waves. And you've had people die of less, not as hot temperatures, but this is going to be, unheard of. All right, as one of the plagues the Lord is going to bring. Verse 9, and men were scorched with great heat and blasphemed the name of the Lord, or the name of God, which hath power over these plagues. Because see, they're going to realize that this isn't normal. And rather than humbling down and trying to seek mercy from the Lord, you're going to have people cursing the Lord. It says, which had power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. See? I mean, and don't be surprised, because the scriptures tell you that even when the destruction hits this place, you're still going to have some that survive that repented not of their evil works, even after the nuclear destruction. Verse 10, and the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast. It says here, and his kingdom was full of darkness. All right, so the seat being the throne, or where the beast dwells, which, like we said, you have the beast, which is NATO and the EU, but primarily the heart or the whore that's controlling it is America. Okay, so like the Western powers, you would say. And his kingdom was full of darkness, similar to ancient Egypt, right? The Lord brought thick darkness upon Egypt, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. And the Lord can do this in many ways. The Lord can bring this darkness in many ways. Now you have more advanced ways of doing it, or more modern ways of doing it, like an EMP, or some major natural disaster. Or even you could have those electro. Remember, the plague above this was the heat, right? The intense heat from the sun. And you can also have electromagnetic waves from the sun that can knock out, electricity. Okay? Or the Lord can use supernatural means to do it. But these are a part of the plagues the Lord is going to bring. So before all this is going to be said and done, you're going to see why Jacob's trouble is going to be likened unto a time like never before. And blaspheme the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, right? Going into the second verse, and repented not of their deeds. So it's going to feel like hell on earth, and it's going to be a supernatural kind of hell on earth, and it's going to cause people to blaspheme against the Lord even more because of the plagues, that the suffering that they're going through. Basically having that attitude of Job's wife, right? Why don't you curse the Lord and die? Verse 12, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, which shows you that you're going to, this is, as we always say, right? Like our elders first said, the MOTB has to come out before the destruction, before the thermonuclear destruction. Okay? It says here in the sixth angel, because then in the second verse, the first angel poured out his vial. You had the swords for those that had taken the MARK, right, the mark of the beast. And now the sixth angel pours out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, which is talking about the actual river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east may be prepared. For what? For war. That they can gather in the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. And that's happening now. If you type that in here, is the river Euphrates drying? Yes, the Euphrates River is drying up at a critical rate. See, this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It's a process. Now, the Euphrates River has been there for thousands of years. It's been there since creation. When you go back to the book of Genesis, it's listed as one of the four heads of waters. And now, and of all the different times in history, now it's drying up at a critical rate. Coincidence? I think not. With water levels dropping significantly due to severe drought, climate change, and upstream damming, reports warn the river could face total drying by 2040. It's going to be before then. And even if it's not total, it's going to be enough to fulfill that prophecy, as its flow has already decreased to nearly half of its average. The reason is because when they say reports warn that it could face total drying, they don't know how long, at what rate it's going to be drying at. So their closest estimate is, let's say it's let's say you have a bottle of water, right? Let's use this example. You have a bottle of water and you're filling it up with water, but at the rate in which the tap is coming down, right? The bottle of water, it took you 5 hours to get halfway. You don't know how long it'll take to finish, so you estimate it might take another 5 hours to fill up the whole bottle. Why? Because it took me 5 hours to get halfway. So if the water that's coming in is going at the same rate as before, then it'll take me another 5 hours. But the problem with that is, whether it seems unlikely or not, you don't know if the water pressure might increase. And now it may have taken 5 hours to get halfway, but now it might take only 1 hour to get all the way up. So you might estimate it takes 10 hours to fill the bottle, but in actuality, it takes 6. That's the problem with their estimations, because they estimate based off of, relativity or past, numbers and information. But the Lord is in control of all of this, So going back to Revelation chapter 16, verse 13, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Now, the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet, they're all part of Esau's power structure, but these are a different avenue or means by which Esau controls the world. Okay, the dragon represents his military might. Okay, which all of this is still the conglomeration of NATO and the EU, but the dragon controls his military might, which is seated in DC. Okay, and then the beast is more on the financial side, because when you look at the formation of the beast, right? If you look at the European Union and how it was formed and on what basis it was formed, and even when you look at the mark of the beast, what is it dealing with? Buying and selling. So they use the dragon means for control through force, the mouth of the beast is controlled through finances, because that's what they're going to do, in which the seat of that is in London. And that's how they're going to control the world, or that's how they've been controlling the world, through finances. But they needed a certain structure or system in place for that. And the false prophet is through religion. Okay, so you have the military, you have the finance, and you have the religious. And these are three very powerful means of controlling the world that Esau uses. And the false prophet is the Roman Catholic Church, which is seated in the Vatican. Right? That's where, out of which a lot of the deception is stemmed from. Okay, so, and that's why these are likened onto unclean spirits. They look like frogs, but this is what they symbolize. Okay, one out of the mouth of the dragon, one out of the mouth of the beast, and one out of the mouth of the false prophet. It's all still the same power structure, but it's different avenues or means of reigning or control. Verse 14, for they are the spirits of devils, see, deceivers, working miracles, and these are false miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. So through deception, they have gone to the kings, which are the rulers of the different, parts of the world, to what? To gather them onto the battle. And they use their military, they use finances, and they use the religious aspect to do this. Now, why are they gathering them onto the day of the great battle, which is World War III? First off, the Most High has put them up to it. But when you look up the letter between Albert Pike and Giuseppe Mazzini, it was called A Plan for 3 World Wars. And the goal was how to change the world over the course of 3 world wars. Now, how would you get a world war started? You need to deceive or trigger or lead the kings of the earth into that war. And the very same thing you see happening in the earth today, matter of fact, the very same thing you saw happen in the world after World War I is exactly what they had in their plan. We've done lessons on that, right? And what you saw happen after World War II with the spread of communism, that was in their plan. They triggered those wars to push about a certain phase in the world. And the plan they have for World War III, that is in their plan, that is in their letter, that is in their writings. They are triggering the kings of the earth and gathering them to do so. They explicitly mention the conflict between political Zionism and the Arab world. And that's what you see going on. Okay? Verse 15. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments. And those that are watching are those that, that are of the elect, right? They're the ones that are paying attention. Okay, and blessed are you, because then you're not going to get caught off guard. And to keep your garments, the garments represent this truth, all right, or your righteousness, so to speak. And when you keep it, you're holding on to it. Lest he walk naked, because once you leave this knowledge, or the Lord takes it away from you, it's like he stripped you of your garment. And the way you live in the world is naked. You're without this covering, right? You're without the covering of the righteousness of the Lord. And they see his shame, because that's what we're gonna. You look at people in the world like they're naked. It's an embarrassment, the way that they move, the things that they do. You might see somebody that used to labor with you, or used to be in the truth at one point, and then you come across them in the world, and they're like smoking, or they're just like bugged out, and it's like an embarrassing thing to see on them, almost like somebody was walking around naked. And also, I think this is in the book of Job, but let's see. Yeah, Job 29:14. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me, and my judgment was as a robe and a diadem. See, Psalm 132:9. Let thy priests be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy. This is not like righteousness. You can't sew righteousness into clothing. But when you dwell in the righteous ways of the Lord, is likened unto being clothed with righteousness. And the contrary is true as well. If you are without the righteousness of the Lord, then it's likened unto being naked. Verse 16, and he gathered them together into a place in the Hebrew tongue, or called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, going to the kings of the earth. And there are different precepts of that, right? Joel 3, I think one is in Zephaniah. For my determination is to gather the nations. So the Lord, using Esau and different events via his angels, is gathering these nations to a place in the Hebrew tongue called Armageddon, which in the Hebrew is Har Magadwan, which loosely translated is mountain of troops. Har is mountain, and Magad is troops or troop, which is God, and then the wan making it plural. And let's go into that word here. Going into the Hebrew, you have Har, which is hill or mountain or mount, and then Magadwan, which is Megiddo or place of crowds, or in this case, troops. And you have here Gad or Gadad, to attack, to gather in troops or crowds. So that's where you get that word from. Continuing in verse 17, and the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne, saying, "It is done." And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake and so great. Now you are going to have literal earthquakes, but the shaking of the earth is going to be caused primarily by the destruction of the nuclear missiles, right? Or the missiles that are going to be hitting, in the warheads that are going to be hitting, so many of them hitting certain places of the earth and the great city. So it's going to be very destructive. All right, very, 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 very destructive. And that's why the scriptures mention the remnant, even those that are going to be delivered, were frightened. Not like a little bit scared or shook, frightened. Verse 19, and the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And this great city is talking about Babylon, all right, or America, meaning it was broken up by way of that destruction and that earthquake. And the cities of the nations fell, right? So different parts that were hit, were destroyed. And great Babylon came in remembrance before God. So the Lord remembered Babylon and her sins, and to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath, which is that destruction, saying, "Drink up, bitch." And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found, by way of the destruction. Because you can have, certain pieces of land that will be hit so bad that they're just going to be like, it's going to be there. It's not going to be there anymore. It's going to be flattened, so to speak. Verse 21, and there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, and every stone about the weight of a talent. This is talking about the missiles. It looked like hail, okay, falling down, but great giant pieces, boom, boom, boom. That's what John described it as. And a talent is very heavy. I think it's somewhere between like what, roughly they say it's like the weight of a human being, somewhere over 70 pounds or so. And men blasphemed because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great. And it shows you how wicked this world is, man. But you know what? A lot of them don't even know to acknowledge the Lord. So when the Lord is bringing these plagues, they're just going to see him as a threat. Just like when Yahushua comes back, majority of the world are going to perceive Yahushua not biblically, but as a foreign alien, like an actual alien invader, like some dark side or Thanos. And that's how they've been programmed to think. You see? And so they're not going to, like when the Lord is doing this, they're not going to look at it from the lens of the world is wicked and the Lord is judging it in righteousness. No, they're going to look at it as this is our world and you are some, monster that's destroying it. You're some demon who's trying to, kill us and destroy our lives. That's how they're going to look at it. That's why, as it says, they're going to blaspheme the Lord. But that's okay, because we're going to have a nice, long, sweet 1,000 years to fix all that with rods of iron. And that brings us to the end of the book of Revelation, the 16th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.